Damian Sterling stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, watching the Seattle skyline shimmer in the afternoon light. At 35, he had built Sterling Technologies from a small startup into a global empire worth billions. Yet success had come at a price that weighed heavily on his shoulders each passing day. His personal assistant, Victoria Hayes, knocked softly before entering with her usual grace. She carried herself with quiet confidence that had impressed him. From her first day 3 years ago, her auburn hair was pulled back in a professional bun, and her charcoal gray suit spoke of understated elegance rather than flashy fashion. "The quarterly reports are ready for your review," Victoria said, placing a leather portfolio on his mahogany desk. "The board meeting is scheduled for tomorrow at 10, and your lunch with the venture capital partners has been confirmed for Thursday." Damian turned from the window, his steel blue eyes meeting hers. "Victoria, there's something else I need to discuss with you." She raised an eyebrow slightly, the only indication of surprise in her otherwise composed demeanor. "Of course, what can I help you with?" "The Children's Hospital Foundation Gala is next Saturday evening." He paused, running a hand through his dark hair. "I need someone to accompany me, and I was hoping you might consider it." Victoria blinked, clearly taken aback by the unusual request. "I'm not sure that would be appropriate, Mr. Sterling." "Isn't this the kind of event where you typically take someone from your social circle?" Damian walked back to his desk and sat down heavily in his leather chair. "That's exactly the problem. Everyone in my social circle has ulterior motives. They see networking opportunities or potential business deals. I need someone who understands the Foundation's mission and can speak intelligently about our technology initiatives without treating the evening like a corporate merger." The friends who doubted that afternoon. Damian met his longtime friends, Jonathan Pierce and Richard Hawthorne, for their weekly tennis match at the exclusive Emerald City Club. Both men had inherited their wealth and spent their days managing trust funds and attending social events. "So who's the lucky lady for Saturday's gala?" Jonathan asked as they toweled off after their match.
Us!
His tone carried the casual arrogance of someone who had never worked for anything in his life. "I'm taking." Victoria. Damian replied simply, knowing the reaction his words would provoke. Richard nearly choked on his energy drink. "Your assistant?" "Damian, this is the social event of the season. Every influential person in the Pacific Northwest will be there." Jonathan shook his head with a condescending laugh. "Please tell me you're joking. Victoria seems like a sweet girl, but she's completely out of her depth for something like this. She probably shops at department stores and has never seen a 7-course meal. She's intelligent, articulate, and understands our business better than most board members." Damian defended, feeling his jaw tighten with each word. "Intelligence doesn't teach you which fork to use or how to make small talk with senators and tech moguls," Richard added. "You'll spend the entire evening explaining basic social protocols instead of making important connections." Jonathan leaned forward conspiratorially. "Catherine Blackwood has been waiting for you to ask her. Her father owns half the commercial real estate in the city, and she actually knows how to handle herself at these events." "Catherine is everything wrong with my social circle," Damian said firmly. "She sees people as stepping stones in conversations as transactions." "And your assistant sees you as her boss, who signs her paycheck," Richard countered. "At least Catherine operates in your world." Victoria's hesitation back at the office. Victoria sat at her desk long after most employees had gone home. Invitation replayed in her mind as she organized files and confirmed appointments for the following week. She had attended corporate events before, but always in her professional capacity, taking notes and coordinating logistics from the sidelines. The Sterling Technologies annual report lay open on her desk, featuring photos from last year's Foundation Gala. She studied the images of elegant women in designer gowns, their jewelry probably worth more than her annual salary. These weren't just wealthy socialites. They were power brokers and influential figures who moved in circles she had only observed. From a professional distance, her phone buzzed with a text from her younger sister Emma, who was finishing her senior year at the University of Washington. "How was work today? Any exciting billionaire drama?" Victoria smiled despite her concerns. Emma always knew how to lighten her mood with perfectly timed humor. She typed back quickly, He asked me to attend a charity gala with him. Not sure it's a good idea. Her phone rang immediately. Victoria Hayes. Please tell me you didn't turn down a date with your gorgeous billionaire boss. Emma's voice was filled with excitement. It's not a date, Victoria protested. It's a professional arrangement. He needs someone who understands the company's charitable initiatives. Right. Because there's absolutely no other employee in your massive corporation who could discuss charity work, Emma said sarcastically. Victoria, when was the last time you did something exciting for yourself? Victoria considered the question seriously. Her life had become a careful routine of work, helping her mother with household expenses, and ensuring Emma could focus on her studies without financial stress. Excitement felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. This isn't about excitement, she said finally. This is about maintaining professional boundaries and not embarrassing myself or the company. Or it's about taking a chance on something that could be amazing, Emma countered. You've been his assistant for 3 years and he's never taken anyone from the office to these events. That has to mean something. The decision the next morning, Victoria arrived at the office 30 minutes early, as was her habit. She used the quiet time to review Damien's schedule and prepare for the day's meetings. When he emerged from the elevator precisely at 8 o'clock, she was ready with his coffee and the morning briefing. Good morning, Mr. Sterling, she said, falling into step beside him as they walked toward his office. Your 9 o'clock with the software development team is confirmed, and the contracts from the Tokyo office arrived overnight for your review. Thank you, he replied, then stopped walking and turned to face her. Victoria, about Saturday evening. If you're not comfortable with the arrangement, I completely understand. I don't want you to feel pressured because of our working relationship. Looked into his eyes, seeing genuine concern rather than the expectations she had feared. In that moment, she realized that Damien Sterling, despite his wealth and power, was asking rather than commanding. It was a distinction that spoke to the character she had observed over 3 years of working closely with him. I'd like to accept your invitation, she said quietly, but I want to be clear about my expectations. I'm attending as your colleague, not as arm candy or a social accessory. A smile spread across his face, transforming his usually serious expression. I wouldn't want it any other way. This foundation is important to me, and I need someone there who shares that perspective. Then yes, I'll accompany you to the gala. They continued toward his office. Victoria felt a mixture of anticipation and anxiety settling in her stomach. She had committed to entering a world she had only observed from the periphery, accompanying a man whose presence commanded attention wherever he went. Preparing for battle, the rest of the week passed in a blur of preparation and second-guessing. Victoria researched the Foundation's history, memorized the names and backgrounds of major donors, and studied the guest list like she was preparing for a final exam. During lunch breaks, she discreetly visited boutiques, searching for something appropriate to wear. The price tags on suitable gowns made her stomach turn, representing several months of careful savings. She was about to give up when she remembered her mother's vintage collection stored in the attic of their family home. Friday afternoon, Victoria left work early to drive to her childhood home in Bellevue. Her mother, Eleanor Hayes, had been a fashion buyer in her younger years before dedicating herself to raising Victoria and Emma after their father's death. Let me see what we can find, Eleanor said, climbing the narrow stairs to the attic with the enthusiasm of someone embarking on a treasure hunt. Among dust-covered boxes and forgotten memories, they discovered a midnight blue gown that Eleanor had worn to charity events in the 1990s. The classic, cut and timeless elegance would be perfect with minor alterations. Your father always said this dress made me look like royalty, Eleanor said softly, holding the gown up to catch the afternoon light streaming through the small attic window. Victoria felt tears prick her eyes as she imagined wearing something that carried her family's love and history. Are you sure you want me to borrow it, sweetheart? This dress was meant to make its wearer feel confident and beautiful. I can't think of a better occasion for it to serve that purpose again. As Victoria drove back to her apartment that evening, the carefully wrapped gown lying in her passenger seat, she felt a shift in her perspective. This wasn't about trying to fit into Damien's world or impressing his wealthy friends. This was about representing herself, her values, and her family's dignity with grace and authenticity. Saturday evening would bring challenges and judgments she couldn't predict, but she would face them as herself rather than trying to become someone she wasn't. The Foundation Gala would either mark the beginning of a new chapter in her relationship with Damian Sterling or serve as a clear reminder of the boundaries that separated their worlds. Either way, Victoria Hayes was ready to find out which it would be. Saturday morning arrived with Seattle's typical gray drizzle, but Victoria woke with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. Her small apartment in Capitol Hill buzzed with activity. As Emma arrived early with reinforcements in the form of their mother and a makeup artist friend from her university theater program, "Today we transform my responsible older sister into a goddess," Emma announced dramatically, setting down bags filled with beauty supplies and accessories. Victoria laughed nervously as she sipped her coffee. "I just need to look presentable. Not like I'm auditioning for a movie role, darling," Eleanor said, examining the vintage gown they had altered the night before. "When you're walking into a room full of Seattle's elite on the arm of one of the city's most eligible bachelors, presentable isn't enough. You need to look like you belong there." The transformation began with a long, luxurious bath infused with lavender oils that Emma had splurged on for the occasion. As Victoria soaked, she tried to calm the butterflies that had taken residence in her stomach. Tonight would either be a beautiful evening supporting a worthy cause or a complete disaster that would make Monday morning unbearably awkward. James Morrison, Emma's friend from the theater program, arrived with a professional makeup kit that looked like it belonged on a movie set. His artistic eye immediately began assessing Victoria's features with the intensity of a sculptor studying marble. "Bone. Structure like this is a gift," he murmured, tilting her face toward the light. "We're going to enhance your natural beauty, not create a mask. The goal is elegance, not drama." For the next 2 hours, Victoria submitted to James's expertise, while Emma and Eleanor fussed over jewelry, shoes, and final alterations to the gown. The process felt surreal, like watching someone else's life unfold in her bathroom mirror. When James finally stepped back with a satisfied smile, Victoria barely recognized herself. Her green eyes seemed larger and more luminous, framed by subtly smoky makeup that emphasized their natural color. Her usually practical hairstyle had been transformed into an elegant updo with soft tendrils framing her face. "Now for the grand finale," Eleanor said, carefully lifting the midnight blue gown from its protective covering. The reveal. The vintage dress fit like it had been designed specifically for Victoria's figure. The deep blue fabric caught the light with every movement, and the classic cut emphasized her natural grace without being ostentatious. Eleanor's pearl necklace, a family heirloom, added the perfect finishing touch. Emma gasped when Victoria emerged from her bedroom fully dressed. "You look like you stepped out of a classic Hollywood movie. Damian Sterling is going to forget how to speak." Victoria studied herself in the full-length mirror, hardly believing the elegant woman looking back at her was the same person who spent her days organizing schedules and managing correspondence. The transformation was more than cosmetic. She felt different, more confident, like she was ready to take on whatever the evening might bring. "Remember," Eleanor said, adjusting the necklace slightly, "confidence comes from within. You're not pretending to be someone else tonight. You're simply allowing the world to see the remarkable woman you've always been." A knock at the door interrupted their preparations. Victoria's heart skipped as she realized Damian had arrived precisely on time, exactly as she would have expected from someone whose life ran on Swiss watch precision. Emma peeked through the window blinds and whistled low. "There's a black limousine outside with a driver in uniform. Your boss doesn't do anything halfway, does he?" Victoria took a deep breath, gathered her small evening clutch, and walked to the door. When she opened it, Damian Sterling stood in the hallway wearing an impeccably tailored black tuxedo that made him look like he had stepped off the cover of a luxury magazine. But it was his expression that took her breath away. For a moment, his usual composed demeanor cracked, revealing something raw and genuine in his eyes as he took in her appearance. "Victoria," he said softly, his voice carrying a note of wonder she had never heard before, "you look absolutely stunning."
Thank
"You," she replied, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. "You clean up rather well yourself, Mr. Sterling." The ride to Destiny, the limousine's interior, was exactly what Victoria had expected. Leather seats, Adea, ambient lighting, and a partition that gave them privacy from the driver. As they pulled away from her modest neighborhood toward the downtown hotel hosting the gala, Damien seemed unusually nervous. "I should probably warn you about what we're walking into," he said, adjusting his cufflinks in a gesture Victoria recognized as his tell when he was anxious. "The guest list includes several people who will be curious about our arrangement tonight." "Curious how?" Victoria asked, smoothing her gown across her lap. "Jonathan and Richard will probably make snide comments. They're convinced you'll be out of your depth." He turned to look at her directly. "There will also be business associates who might see your presence as significant beyond tonight's event." Victoria considered this information carefully. "Are you concerned about how this might affect our working relationship?" "I'm more concerned about how my social circle might treat you," Damien admitted. "Some of these people can be incredibly shallow and judgmental. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable because of their small-mindedness." The vulnerability in his voice surprised her. For 3 years, she had seen Damien Sterling as an impenetrable force of nature, someone who commanded respect through sheer presence and intelligence. Tonight, she was glimpsing the man beneath the corporate armor. Someone who cared about her feelings and worried about her comfort. "I appreciate your concern," she said gently, "but I didn't accept your invitation to hide in a corner. I'm here to support the foundation and to represent Sterling Technologies with dignity. If some people can't see past their own prejudices, that says more about them than it does about me." Damien's smile was genuine and warm. "That's exactly the attitude that makes you perfect for tonight." As the limousine approached the Fairmont Olympic Hotel, Victoria could see other elegant vehicles dropping off passengers dressed in designer gowns and expensive tuxedos. The red carpet entrance was illuminated by photographers capturing arrivals for the society pages. "Ready?" Damien asked, as their car pulled up to the entrance. "Ready," Victoria confirmed, though her heart was beating so fast she was sure he could. Here at the grand entrance, the moment Victoria stepped out of the limousine, camera flashes began popping like small fireworks. She had expected some media presence, but the attention was more intense than she had anticipated. Damien appeared beside her immediately, offering his arm with the natural grace of someone accustomed to public scrutiny. "Just smile and walk normally," he murmured as they approached the entrance. "The photographers are here for the event, not specifically for us." But Victoria could hear the whispered speculation from other guests as they passed. "Who is she? I don't recognize her. She's certainly not his usual type." Inside the hotel's grand ballroom, the Children's Hospital Foundation had created a magical atmosphere. Soft lighting reflected off crystal chandeliers, and elegant floral arrangements filled the space with the scent of roses and orchids. Round tables covered in crisp white linens surrounded a dance floor. While a live orchestra provided sophisticated background music, Jonathan Pierce appeared within minutes of their arrival, his expression barely concealing his skepticism as he assessed Victoria from head to toe. "Damien, good to see you. And this must be the famous Victoria we've heard so much about." "Victoria Hayes," she replied, extending her hand with confident grace. "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Pierce. Damien speaks of you often." "I'm sure he does." Jonathan replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Tell me, Victoria, what brings you to our little charity gathering? Are you particularly passionate about children's health care?" The question was clearly designed to expose her as an outsider, but Victoria had prepared for exactly this type of interrogation. "Actually, yes. My sister Emma volunteers at the children's ward during her breaks from university. The work the foundation does to provide medical equipment and family support services is incredibly important." Jonathan's eyebrows rose slightly, clearly not expecting such a knowledgeable response. "Well handled," he said quietly as they walked. "Jonathan was trying to rattle you, I noticed," Victoria replied with a small smile. "But I didn't spend 3 years managing your calendar without learning how to handle difficult personalities." Meeting the power players, their table included several of Seattle's most influential figures: Senator William Ashford and his wife, tech entrepreneur Michael Chen, philanthropist Sophia Martinez, who directed the foundation, and real estate mogul Patricia Romano with her husband. Their table included several of Seattle's most influential figures, Senator William Ashford and his wife, tech entrepreneur Michael Chen, philanthropist Sophia Martinez, who directed the foundation, and real estate mogul Patricia Romano with her husband. As they took their seats, Victoria realized that Damien had specifically requested a table with people who would appreciate substantive conversation rather than gossip and social posturing. Senator Ashford immediately engaged her in discussion about technology's role in improving healthcare accessibility. Ms. Hayes, Sophia Martinez said during the appetizer course, "Damien tells me you've been instrumental in organizing Sterling Technologies' charitable initiatives. Your approach to corporate social responsibility has been quite innovative." Victoria felt a flush of pride that Damien had given her credit for work she had poured her heart into. "Thank you, Ms. Martinez. I believe companies have an obligation to give back to their communities, especially in areas where they have expertise to offer." "I couldn't agree more," Senator Ashford added. "The partnership between Sterling Technologies and the Children's Hospital has been a model for other corporations. The interactive learning systems you've provided to young patients have made hospital stays less traumatic for countless families." As the evening progressed, Victoria found herself genuinely enjoying the conversations. These weren't the shallow social climbers Damien's friends had led her to expect, but passionate individuals working to make meaningful differences in their community. During the foundation's presentation, Victoria watched Damien's face as they showed a video featuring children using the educational technology his company had donated. His expression revealed the deep satisfaction he derived from using his success to help others. And she felt a surge of admiration for the man she thought she already knew so well. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sophia Martinez announced from the podium, "I'd like to recognize some of our most generous supporters this year. Sterling Technologies, under the guidance of Damien Sterling and his remarkable team, has contributed not just financial resources but innovative solutions that have transformed how we serve our young patients." The applause was genuine and sustained, and Victoria felt proud to be associated with work that was making such a tangible difference. This was why she had been drawn to working for Sterling Technologies in the first place: the opportunity to be part of something meaningful, the dance that changed everything after dinner. As the orchestra began playing songs for dancing, Damien stood and offered Victoria his hand. "Would you honor me with a dance?" The gesture felt both natural and momentous as they moved on to the dance floor. Other couples swayed around them, but Victoria felt like they were alone in their own bubble of soft music and possibility. "You've exceeded every expectation tonight," Damien said as they moved together with surprising grace. "Watching you handle every conversation with intelligence and wit has been remarkable." "Thank you for including me," Victoria replied, acutely aware of his hand on her waist and the warmth of his touch. "This evening has shown me a side of your work that I only understood intellectually before. Seeing the actual impact on those children's lives makes everything feel more meaningful." "That's exactly how I hoped you'd feel," Damien said, his voice soft and sincere. "You bring that perspective to everything you do, Victoria. It's one of the things I value most about working with you." As the song continued, Victoria became aware that they had garnered attention from other guests. Some watched with curious approval, while others, particularly Jonathan Pierce and his circle, observed with obvious disapproval. "We're being watched," she murmured. "Let them watch," Damien replied, his eyes never leaving hers. "I'm exactly where I want to be, with exactly the person I want to be here with." The intensity in his voice made Victoria's heart skip, and she realized that something fundamental had shifted between them during the course of the evening. This was no longer just a professional arrangement or a charitable obligation. Something real and profound was developing. Whether they were ready for it or not, Sunday morning brought Seattle's typical drizzle, but Victoria woke in her small apartment feeling like everything had changed. The midnight blue gown hung carefully in her closet, and her mother's pearls rested in their velvet box. But the memories of the previous evening felt almost too vivid to be real. Her phone buzzed. With a text from Emma, "Tell me everything. Don't leave out a single detail." Before Victoria could respond, another message appeared, this one from an unknown number. "This is Sofia Martinez from the Children's Hospital Foundation. Would you be available for lunch this week? I have a proposition that might interest you." Victoria stared at the message, wondering what the foundation director could possibly want to discuss with her. Before she could analyze it further, her doorbell rang through the peephole. She saw a delivery person holding an enormous bouquet of white roses. The card, written in Damien's precise handwriting, simply said, "Thank you for a perfect evening. D. Unexpected consequences. Monday morning at Sterling Technologies felt surreal." Victoria arrived at her usual time, prepared for potential awkwardness or change dynamics. But Damien greeted her with his normal professional demeanor. If anything, there seemed to be a new warmth in his eyes and a subtle softness in his voice. When he spoke to her, "Good morning, Victoria. Could you please confirm my appointments for this week? And we'll need to schedule a follow-up meeting with the Foundation Board about expanding our educational technology program." "Of course, Mr. Sterling. I'll have the confirmed schedule on your desk within the hour." Right. But by mid-morning, it became clear that news of their appearance together had spread through Seattle's interconnected social and business networks faster than either had anticipated. Richard Hawthorne called Damien's direct line before 10 o'clock. "Interesting choice for Saturday night," he said without preamble. "The photos from the society page are quite striking. Your assistant cleans up better than I expected." "Victoria is an exceptional woman," Damien replied coolly. "I'm not sure why that surprises you." "It doesn't surprise me," Richard continued. "What surprises me is that you're willing to complicate your professional life for a romantic entanglement. Mixing business with pleasure rarely ends well, especially when there's such a significant power imbalance involved." After ending the call, Damien found himself staring out his office window, considering Richard's words. The last thing he wanted was to put Victoria in an uncomfortable position or jeopardize her career. Because of his personal feelings, the Foundation's offered Tuesday afternoon. Victoria met Sofia Martinez at a quiet restaurant overlooking Elliott Bay. The Foundation director was elegant and direct, qualities Victoria had admired during their brief interaction at the gala. "I'll get straight to the point," Sofia said after they ordered. "Your insights about corporate social responsibility impressed me Saturday night, but what really caught my attention was your obvious passion for the work itself. I've been searching for someone to lead our new corporate partnerships division, and I think you might be perfect for the role." Victoria nearly choked on her water. "I'm flattered, Ms. Martinez, but I'm very happy in my current position." "I understand your loyalty to Sterling Technologies," Sofia continued. "But this role would allow you to expand the kind of work you're already passionate about across multiple organizations. You'd be developing partnerships with corporations throughout the Pacific Northwest, helping them create meaningful community impact programs." The offer was tempting in ways Victoria hadn't expected. Salary was substantially higher than her current position, and the work aligned perfectly with her values and interests. But accepting would mean leaving Damien, and she wasn't sure she was ready for that conversation. "May I think about it?" Victoria asked. "Of course. But I should mention that the position would need to be filled within the next month. Take the time you need, but don't wait too long." Damien's dilemma that evening, Damien found himself pacing his penthouse apartment, nursing a glass of wine and trying to sort through emotions he hadn't felt since his divorce 5 years earlier. His marriage had ended when his ex-wife accused him of being more committed to his company than to their relationship, and he had sworn never to let personal feelings complicate his professional judgment again. But Victoria was different. Over 3 years, he had watched her handle every challenge with grace and intelligence. She improved everything she touched, from simple scheduling conflicts to complex corporate initiatives. More importantly, she made him want to be better, both professionally and personally. His phone rang, interrupting his brooding. The caller ID showed his mother's name, and he answered with resignation. "Damien, darling," Diana Sterling's cultured voice filled the room. "I've been hearing fascinating things about Saturday night's gala. Apparently you created quite a stir with your choice of companion." "Hello, Mother." I gotta assume the Seattle social network has been buzzing with speculation. "Indeed. Catherine Blackwood called me this morning, quite upset about being passed over for your assistant. She seemed to think you had some sort of understanding." Damien rubbed his forehead, feeling the beginning of a tension headache. Catherine assumed something that was never discussed or agreed upon. I took Victoria because she was the best possible companion for the evening. Choice, dear, Diana continued. From what I hear, she handled herself beautifully and made an excellent impression on some very important people. I'm simply curious about your intentions. My intentions? Damien, you're 35 years old, and one of the most eligible bachelors in the city. Every move you make is scrutinized and analyzed. If you're developing feelings for your assistant, you need to consider the implications for both of your careers. After ending the call with his mother, Damien realized he could no longer avoid the conversation he needed to have with Victoria. Whatever was developing between them deserved honesty and clarity. Even if it complicated everything else, the honest conversation Wednesday afternoon, Damien asked Victoria to stay after regular office hours. As the building emptied and Seattle's skyline began to twinkle with evening lights, they found themselves alone in his office, surrounded by the familiar trappings of their professional relationship. Victoria, we need to talk about Saturday night. He began, then stopped, realizing he had no idea how to continue. She saved him from further awkwardness by speaking first. I've been offered another job. Sofia Martinez wants me to lead the Foundation's new corporate partnerships division. Damien felt like he had been punched in the chest. That's a wonderful opportunity. The Foundation would be lucky to have you. I haven't accepted yet, Victoria said carefully. But it would be a significant career advancement and a chance to focus on work I'm passionate about. And it would solve the problem of our changing relationship, Damien said quietly. Victoria looked up sharply. Is that what this is? A problem? No, he said firmly, moving closer to where she sat. It's the opposite of a problem. What's developing between us feels like the most natural thing in the world. But I don't want you to feel pressured or compromised because I'm your boss. Victoria stood up, closing the distance between them until they were only inches apart. Damien, I've worked for you for 3 years. In all that time, have you ever known me to do anything I didn't want to do simply because you suggested it? He smiled despite the gravity of their conversation. If you've disagreed with me more than most of my board members, exactly. Trust me to know my own mind about this. She reached up and touched his face gently. Saturday night wasn't just professional for me either. But I need to know what you want before I make any decisions about my career. I want to see where this leads, regardless of where we work. But I also want you to make the choice that's best for your future, even if that means leaving Sterling Technologies. But what if I stayed? And we agreed to keep our personal relationships separate from work until we figure out what. That would be complicated, Damien said, though his thumb was tracing circles on her palm, belying his words. I've never been afraid of complicated, Victoria replied. Have you? Instead of answering with words, Damien leaned down and kissed her softly, settling the question that had been building between them for days. When they broke apart, both were breathing slightly faster. I'm not taking the Foundation job, Victoria said decisively. Not yet, anyway. What we have here is worth exploring, and I'm not running away because it's complicated. 6 months later, Sterling Technologies' annual shareholders meeting had concluded successfully, with record profits and expanding community partnerships, earning praise from investors and board members alike. Victoria, now holding the title of Director of Corporate Social Responsibility, had presented the quarterly report on their charitable initiatives to enthusiastic applause. Excellent presentation, Damien said as they walked back to his office. Together, the board was particularly impressed with the expansion of our educational technology program. Their enthusiasm makes all the long hours worthwhile, Victoria replied, carrying herself with the confidence that had flourished over the past 6 months. Their relationship had evolved gradually and carefully. They maintained strict professional boundaries during business hours, but their evenings and weekends had become filled with long dinners, cultural events, and quiet conversations that revealed new depths to both of their personalities. Victoria, Damien said as they reached his office door, "Would you join me for dinner tonight?" "There's something I'd like to discuss with you," she smiled, recognizing the formal tone he used when he was nervous about something important. "Course, should I be concerned?" I hope not, he replied, then paused. Actually, I hope you'll be very pleased. The perfect circle that evening. Damien took Victoria to the same restaurant where they had shared their first non-business dinner. 6 months earlier, as they sat at the same table, looking out over Elliott Bay, Victoria marveled at how much had changed, while somehow feeling like everything had fallen perfectly into place. Do you remember what you said to me the night of the gala? Damien asked. As they finished their main course, I said many things that night. You'll have to be more specific. You said you had never been afraid of complicated situations. He reached across the table and took her hand. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Victoria felt her heart begin to race as Damien reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. Damien Victoria Hayes, he said, opening the box to reveal a stunning solitaire diamond that caught the candlelight perfectly. You've transformed my life in ways I never expected. You've made me a better businessman, a better man, and shown me that love and professional success can coexist beautifully. Tears began forming in Victoria's eyes as he continued. I know our relationship started in the most unconventional way, and I know some people will always question the dynamics that brought us together. But I also know that what we have is real and worth fighting for. He paused, his voice thick with emotion. Will you marry me? Victoria looked at the ring, then at the man who had evolved from her demanding boss into her closest friend and deepest love. Yes, she whispered, then louder, yes, absolutely yes. As Damien slipped the ring onto her finger, Victoria realized that sometimes the most unexpected invitations lead to the most extraordinary destinations. What had begun as a simple request to attend a charity gala had become a love story that neither of them could have imagined. Epilogue. 2 years later, the Sterling Hayes Foundation's second annual gala was held at the same hotel where Damien and Victoria had first appeared together as a couple. This time, Victoria stood at the podium as the Foundation's co-director, addressing a room full of supporters who had contributed to their expanded mission of improving children's health care and education throughout the Pacific Northwest. When my husband first invited me to a charity gala 3 years ago, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the ballroom, I never could have imagined that evening would lead to this moment. Tonight, we celebrate not just the success of our programs, but the power of partnerships that bring together passion, resources, and commitment to create lasting change. In the audience, Damien watched his wife with profound admiration. Victoria had left Sterling Technologies the previous year to co-found their private foundation with him. Combining her passion for social impact with his business acumen and resources, their marriage had proven the skeptics wrong, while inspiring others to look beyond conventional boundaries when building both professional and personal partnerships. Jonathan Pierce approached Damien during the cocktail reception. His expression, notably different from their first meeting with Victoria years earlier. I owe you both an apology, he said sincerely. I was wrong about Victoria, and I was wrong about what would make you happy. You two have built something remarkable together. Thank you, Jonathan. That means more than you know. As the evening concluded and the last guests departed, Damien and Victoria found themselves alone in the ballroom where their story had really begun. She was wearing emerald green this time, and her wedding rings caught the light as she reached up to straighten his bow tie. Ready to go home, Mr. Sterling? She asked with the same professional tone she had used years earlier, though now it carried playful affection rather than formal distance. With you, always, he replied, taking her hand as they walked toward their waiting car. Outside, Seattle's skyline glittered with the same lights that had witnessed the beginning of their unconventional love story. Neither could have predicted that a lonely millionaire's impulsive invitation to his dedicated assistant would lead to a partnership that transformed not only their own lives, but the lives of countless others through their shared commitment to making the world a better place. Sometimes the most meaningful journeys begin with the simplest question. Would you like to accompany me? Sometimes when the right person says yes, that single evening can change everything.